This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Ash, Christopher Mitchell, and 212th Trooper, and brought to you by Ash, who requested this topic. If there is a video you want me to make, just head over to Patreon or become a channel member, and select the Pickled Producer tier, since among other benefits this will guarantee that your video is made, be it the continuation of an existing series or a brand new story like this. Also, while I have you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, since it costs you nothing and helps tell YouTube that you like what I do. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Our story begins in the Kanto region like many tales of the Pokémon world do, though unlike many it does not begin with Ash, instead starting many years earlier with a boy named Freed and his two childhood friends, Orla and Delia. From a young age, the trio play and explore together, each chasing their own dreams, which for Freed is to be a Pokémon professor, for Orla is to be a great engineer, and for Delia is to be an amazing cook. At such a tender age, anything seems possible, though, as all must learn in time, life gets in the way, with this becoming clearest to the group when Orla's family announce they are moving away to the Hoenn region. Naturally, the trio are sad to say goodbye, but promising to keep each other in their hearts, they do so all the same, so that soon it is just Freed and Delia. Due to the loss of Orla, the pair quickly become closer than ever, becoming best friends, and as they grow up, something more, with Freed's boundless curiosity inspiring Delia, while in turn she serves as the anchor he so sorely needs when his head is in the clouds. In spite of their differences, when they are together, they make each other not only better, but happier, so that by the time they have become adults, they are partners in all senses of the word. With the onset of adulthood comes more changes, namely Freed achieving his dream of becoming a professor and finding work as a corporate researcher, while Delia both becomes a chef and brings their child into the world, a boy they name Ash. From the moment he first cries, both his parents are smitten with him, with their adoration growing every day as they watch him develop into a sweet child who has his mother's open heart and giving nature, and his dad's quick thinking, as well as his curiosity and love for Pokémon, though this comes at the cost of also getting his somewhat absent-minded style of communication. Together, they become a family. Them and Freed's partner Charizard, of course, with the fire lizard being a source of endless fascination for the boy, able to entertain him for hours just by swishing its tail back and forth as the baby tries to catch it. As well as being a playmate and occasional babysitter, Charizard is also the one to give Ash his first taste of adventure, as when he gets a little older, Freed takes his son for rides on Charizard's back, while Delia insists they don't go too high, to the point where Charizard often has to dodge buildings with more than one story or particularly tall pedestrians. Freed can never resist Ash's cries of higher for very long, with the result always being the same: a sudden burst skywards as father and son share their joint love of thrills and adventures, all the while laughing until they become breathless. Unfortunately, not everything can be laughter and thrills, as while at home Freed is completely fulfilled, at work the opposite is true, as despite being a brilliant mind, he cannot thrive cooped up in a lab, so he often spends his days staring out the window wishing he was anywhere but where he is, his long-held dream having become a nightmare. However, as he has a family to support, he swallows this and presses on, continuing his work as a corporate researcher longer than he does in canon. Unfortunately, in trying to perform his duty to his family, he actually does them a disservice, as when he gets home from work, he's often lethargic and somewhat distant, frequently postponing his flights with Ash since he's too tired, yet at the same time seldom sleeping, due to his restless spirit being out of step with his emotionally exhausted body. However, this is not clear to a small child, with Ash beginning to worry if this withdrawal on his father's part is indicative of anger towards him or a lack of love, and while Delia and even Freed assure him that this isn't the case, this more observant and thoughtful Ash cannot wholly dismiss the idea, as lack of Charizard rides speak louder than words. Meanwhile, Delia is also growing concerned, as knowing her partner well, she recognizes that his spark is fading, and so one night when Ash is in bed she insists they talk this through, so they can solve whatever's bothering Freed the same way they always have, as a team. It is not an easy conversation, nor is it a simple one, but it is important, so that by the end of it, they are in agreement that Freed should take a sabbatical so he can get his mind right, as that's what he needs to figure out where to go from here. As in canon, this leads him to Ludlow's boat, where the pair spend their days fishing, and while his malaise does not lift right away, he is not entirely apathetic as he is his family, often bringing Ash with him to make up for lost time, much to the boy's delight, as he happily plays on the boat, even if this does wind up interrupting Charizard's naps. Finding the toddler rather engaging, Ludlow suggests the professor could learn a lot from his son, since the young are meant to chase what they want, not wallow, though this just makes Freed sigh that he doesn't know what he wants anymore. Thankfully, there is someone out there who knows what he needs, with that being his old teacher Miss Luca, who insists he come meet her at the treasure eatery in the Paldea region. As this is her first time meeting Ash, she dotes on him, saying that she heard Fred and Delia had a kid and that she reckons he's about the same age as her daughter, so maybe they can play together sometime, an idea Ash finds appealing, though when he wanders off as he is wont to do, she turns her attention to a former student and questions why he left his job out of the blue. Trusting her enough to be honest, Fred explains himself, though this just causes her to grin that she knew it. He's completely lost, for instructing him to come meet her at dawn tomorrow, since there's someone she'd like him to meet. Taking this to mean the meeting's over, Fred turns to leave, though when he looks around for his son, he finds him seated at the counter excitedly yammering in the ear of some poor salaryman with slightly greyed hair about all the neat stuff his dad taught him about Pokémon. Unfortunately, all this noise and exuberance is Ash's hostage seemingly assessing his bowl to see if it's deep enough to drown himself in, while Ash himself is suddenly brought out a giant serve of steaming ramen, which he eagerly digs into. Curiously, Fred asks where Ash got that, to which the boy grins that he told his dad he was going to get some lunch while he and Miss Luca talked, though when it becomes clear from Fred's expression that this is news to him, asks if he forgot to tell him that. Having heard that line far too often from the white-haired man in his mile-a-minute brain, Luca laughs that Ash is definitely Fred's kid, while the professor chuckles that he guesses so, before leaping onto the stool beside him and joining in on the colossal dish. The following morning, before the sun has even risen, the sleepy pair of Fred and Ash make their way across the Paldean skyline atop Charizard, with it being abundantly clear that both father and son prefer to sleep in, though all the same they do make their appointment with Luca. Here she introduces them to the someone she'd wanted Fred to meet, with that being a Pikachu, who through the use of Volt Tackle is able to briefly fly, but who only does so once a day at dawn. Naturally, Ash is enamored, and while Fred assumes that he already knows everything there is to know about the Pikachu line, he is at least intrigued enough to study this one, with it becoming his and Ash's new project. Over the next few weeks, the pair attempt to study this amazing flying Pikachu, a feat which is easier said than done, as he plainly does not like them, attacking both father and son whenever he sees them watching him. However, this challenge is what excites them, with it doing wonders for reigniting Fred's passion for his work, not to mention reminding him how fun field research is through the eyes of Ash, who comes home every day dirty and worn out, but delighted with everything they've learned. Seeing how much the boy is enjoying this, Fred questions if maybe his son wants to follow him down the path of a Pokémon professor, though shaking his head, Ash replies with a rather thoughtless, nah, since he's more interested in having adventures with Pokémon than observing them from a distance. While a little stung by this casual rebuke, this does give Fred an idea, and so one morning when he and Ash arrive to witness Pikachu's morning ritual, they do not disembark Charizard, but instead fly upwards like they do for fun, with the white-haired man explaining maybe it's time they get up close with Pikachu to see why he flies. Grinning broadly at this idea, Ash holds on tight, so that as Pikachu takes to the sky, they soar right alongside him. This at last reveals the answer they have been seeking, as staring out at the beautiful sunrise from up in the air, they too are inspired to always chase the horizons, and keep rising higher just like Pikachu is. Knowing now what he wants, Fred begins taking steps to make it a reality, the first being to land beside Pikachu and ask him to be his partner. Having come to respect his tenacity and recognizing the same spark in his eyes that he has, Pikachu accepts, though this is only the beginning, as returning to Kanto at last, Fred confides in Delia what his new potentially mad plan is, and remembering that rush from her childhood when the two of them would go on adventures together, she agrees without hesitation, stopping only to prepare some sandwiches for the trip and gather a few changes of clothes for them all. Together, the family and Ludlow then set sail for Slateport City to reunite with Orla, a joyous reunion for the childhood friends, though it is plain their purpose is not pure sentimentality, as grinning that she's the best engineer he knows, Fred implores her to transform Ludlow's old fishing boat into a grand airship. Such an idea sounds quite insane when said aloud, though in his youthful exuberance Ash cheers that this is an awesome idea, and chuckling fondly at this, Orla states that she agrees with the kid, so she'll set to work. Due to her mechanical genius, this endeavour takes far less time than one would expect, so that soon the group are back at the Slateport shipyard admiring the newly dubbed Brave Olivine. Effusively, both Fred and Delia thank their old friend. While beaming proudly at her handiwork, Orla replies they can thank her for as long as they like, since she's decided to come with them as payment for her work, a decision no one objects to, as they're all glad to have her on the team. Speaking of, now that they're growing in numbers beyond the family, it is only right they have a name, with Fred proposing the Rising Volt Tacklers after Pikachu's flying move, which naturally makes the electric type their captain. With this settled, the newly completed Brave Olivine takes flight as its crew begin exploring, wanting to see what the world has in store. As part of settling in, the Rising Volt Tacklers members also begin adopting roles on the ship, with Captain Pikachu, or as they call him, Cap, being their leader, Freed taking the role of commander, Orla becoming the ship's engineer, Delia being the cook, and Ash taking on the role of cabin boy, a position he accepts readily, as he's just happy to be part of the crew, as now we'll be able to have more adventures like he and his dad did in Paldea. Over the next few years, more members begin joining, such as Molly, who becomes the ship's doctor, and a second chef named Murdoch, who is brought on because while Delia is an excellent cook in her own right, her nature simply does not allow her to limit herself to just that, also becoming the ship's janitor, launderer, seamstress, purser, requisitioning officer, and all-around handywoman, doing everything she can to help, not wanting to make his love cut back on what makes her happy. Freed therefore has Murdoch lighten the load in the kitchen from time to time, with he and Delia immediately hitting it off, as she thinks his Alcremie is adorable, and he enjoys chatting and shopping with her. With Murdoch also comes his niece Dot, and while Ash is excited to have another kid on board, she is seemingly his antithesis, being quiet, not really caring about food or adventure, and wanting to be left alone in her room. Due to being smarter and a bit more observant as the son of a professor, Ash accepts this to a degree, though he does inform Dot that one day he's going to get her out of that room, and when he does, they're going to go on an adventure together, just the two of them, and become really good buddies just like his mum, dad, and Orla. Speaking of buddies, while Ash has lots of family, considering the other members of the Rising Vault Tacklers to be this, as Orla has always been an honorary aunt to him, frequently getting him to run tasks for her, as while she's a brilliant engineer, she can be a little uncoordinated outside her work, and Ludlow is always happy to give advice and go fishing like a wise old grandpa. He doesn't really have any friends, as due to moving around all the time since he was little, he hasn't had much of a chance to set down roots. However, this all changes as wild Pokemon begin making the brave Olivine their home, often coming aboard whenever they make port to resupply or explore a new area. Naturally, Ash works hard to befriend every single one of them, playing up on deck until his parents or one of the other crew members call him inside, and often spending nights huddled under a blanket with them watching the stars go by. Unfortunately, most tend to leave after a stop or two. Not that Ash begrudges it, as he knows they have their own adventures to go on, though he does wish at least one would stick around to be his forever friend. As if in response to that wish, following a stop off in the Paldea region so Delia and Murdoch can restock the ship's pantries, a new little stowaway comes on board, that being a wild Pawmi who Ash finds attempting to shadowbox, a feat which is easier said than done, as the species are quadrupedal by nature, due to their bodies having not yet developed the muscles to support the weight of their heavy front paws while upright. Having learned all this from his dad, Ash rushes over to the chubby electric type to ask why it's doing this, though he receives no answer, as Pawmod is entirely focused on its goal, throwing a single uncoordinated punch, then falling forward, only to struggle back onto its hind legs and repeat the process all over again. Being reminded of Cap in his quest to fly, Ash sits back and watches, amazed by the dedication and determination this Pawmi has, as every time it tries, it fails after only a single swing, though this does not stop it from trying again. Since this electric type has no objection to being watched, Ash begins encouraging it as well as passing on helpful tips he's learned from his dad and Cap, all of which Pawmi takes to heart, seeing it improve even if ever so slightly, managing a second punch before it falls. While this is about as much growth as Pawmi can achieve in one day, neither it nor Ash stop until night has well and truly fallen and his parents have come out to get him for dinner since he's ignored their calls on his Rotom phone. Upon spotting what he's doing, Delia beams that Ash's new friend is adorable, while Freed squats down and grins that he wondered how long it would take his son to meet his Pokemon partner. Looking a little surprised, Ash balks that he's not sure he and Pawmi are partners, it might just be here for a ride like the others, though shaking his head, the white-haired man refutes that he can tell Pawmi appreciates him helping it work towards its dream, just like he can see that it inspires Ash the same way Cap did for him, so if that's not the start of a partnership, then he doesn't know what is. Turning to face the mass Pokemon who has also looked over at him, Ash asks if it wants to be partners, and after a huff as it forces itself back onto its hind legs, Pawmi thrusts his fist into the air for an eager fist pump, and an unmistakable yes. Handing his son a Pokeball, Freed watches as Ash gently taps it to the tuft of hair on Pawmi's head, then after it has been sucked inside, he brings it back out and lifts into a hug. Smiling proudly, the pair of parents then tell Ash and Pawmi to come inside, since everyone will want to meet the new crew member, not to mention the dinner Delia worked so hard on is getting cold. From here, Pawmi and Ash are inseparable, with the rodent helping its new trainer with his jobs around the ship, while in turn he puts his not unimpressive mind to work thinking up the best ways to guide Pawmi towards accomplishing its dream of being a great fist fighter. Thankfully, Ash doesn't have to do this alone, and so looks to his family for help, with Freed and Cap being their main inspiration. Being impressed by everything the pair have already tried, the Whitehead Professor suggests that maybe a battle would be a good way to push Pawmi to the next level, an idea both Ash and his partner are more than game for, so that soon they are facing off against the elder pair up on the wing deck battlefield. Confidently, Fried invites his son to go first, and refusing to back down, Ash commands Pawmi to use Scratch. Chittering determinedly, the mouse Pokemon begins barreling across the field, but when it reaches Cap, it does not attack immediately, instead pausing to wobble its way onto its hind legs before swinging its curled paw at its foe. Unfortunately, in the time it takes Pawmi to do this, Cap has already evaded the attack, having leapt into the air, only to land on the orange rodent's back when it returns to all fours, and begun tickling Pawmi's nose with its tail. Angered by this taunt, Pawmi leaps onto its feet again, and as Cap lands it begins swinging wildly at him. Though showing off more of that speed, the Pikachu merely tilts his head side to side to dodge all 3 punches before Pawmi falls again. Nonetheless, Ash will not back down, and neither will his partner, so that as soon as it is able, Pawmi staggers back up and attempts an unexpected final scratch. Were the pair fighting someone on their level, this would surely be a critical hit, though as they will learn, even this is not enough to put them on par with Fried and Cap, with the white-haired man simply telling his partner to meet this with a thunder punch. At once, Cap's fist begins crackling with yellow electricity, so that when it and the Scratch collide mid-air, Pawmi is decisively defeated, being blown away and onto its back where it lays with spirals for eyes. Rushing onto the field, Ash begins tending to his starter, while grinning, Fried replies that while his son may have lost, at least they learned something important from the battle. Looking up at his dad, Ash asks what he means, to which Fried replies that when it was all riled up, Pawmi managed 3 standing punches in a row, which is a new record. Didn't he tell Ash that? Shaking his head that he definitely didn't, Ash looks down at Pawmi, congratulating it on that, and musing that it makes sense the secret to its growth would be passion, since that's what's pushed it this far. Nodding eagerly, Pawmi fist bumps its trainer to demonstrate that it's ready to put what they've learned to use. Then, as its eyes fall on Cap, it gives him a nod, vowing that one of these days they'll have a rematch, and when they do, its punch will be the one that reigns supreme. This new one-sided rivalry, coupled with the insight from Fried, does wonder for the pair's training moving forward, and while progress remains slow as they are both novices, their joint passion ensures that every day they end up a little stronger than the day before. It is good that this is the case, as soon their strength will be required, since not long after this battle, the rising Vault Tacklers receive a call from Luca, who requests they head to the Kanto region to fetch her daughter Liko and bring her back home to Paldea. Being indebted to the woman for helping him find his new path, Fried naturally agrees, with the brave Olivine making haste towards Indigo Academy where Liko is currently attending school. Figuring it might look like less of an abduction if someone her own age is there to explain things, Ash accompanies his dad down to the school, with the white-haired man laughing that Ash has grown so big since the last time they did this that Charizard might struggle to carry both of them and Liko, earning a laugh from the boy as they descend. As it turns out, they have arrived not a second too soon, as when Charizard swoops down, Ash and Fried spot a girl they presume to be Liko along with a Sprigatito, being chased by some creeps across the roof, seeing Fried and Charizard engage their leader in battle while Ash urges the girl to come with them. Unfortunately, due to forgetting to give key context such as the fact they were sent by her mother, Liko merely sees another group of strangers hunting her, and so she does the same thing she's done in the face of the first group, flee, escaping up the clock tower with Ash hot on her heels before attempting to leap to the next building with the grass cat Pokemon at her side. While this jump is difficult, but theoretically possible, that is assuming nothing appears to change the course of one's fall, such as an errant Psycho Cut launched by the person Fried is battling. Being too far away to reach Liko now, Ash lets out a cry as she will surely be struck, though just before this can happen, the pendant around her neck begins to glow, and a strange crystalline orb surrounds her and Sprigatito, suspending them in mid-air. In the wake of this anomaly, no one speaks, all watching intently for what will happen next, though, as it turns out, seemingly nothing happens, with the orb disappearing just as soon as it appeared. However, one change from before is that Liko no longer has the momentum of her jump, meaning she and her Pokemon begin plummeting straight down, though thankfully, Fried and Charizard are quick enough to break off and catch her, while Ash leaps down to the fire lizard's back so they can at last depart, having succeeded in their mission. Cheering excitedly, father and son high-five, though being the less than stellar communicators they are, neither think to fill Liko in on who they are, where they're going, or why they saved her, so that when the brave Olivine bursts into view through the clouds, she begins to panic. Spotting this as she comes onto deck, Delia scolds Ash and Fried both for not telling the poor girl anything, before informing her partner that Ola needs him below deck, while she leads the kids inside and tells them to watch over the wild Pokemon, since they're flying into a storm. Knowing better than to risk another tongue lashing from his mum, Ash uses this chance to introduce himself formally, as well as explain where they are, who the rising Vault Tacklers are, and perhaps most importantly, why Liko's here. This does a lot to ease the girl's mind, as she beams that it's so cool Ash gets to go on adventures with his family, saying that her grandmother's an adventurer too, though she never considered the idea of going with her on her journeys. Laughing, Ash replies that she totally should, since there's nothing in the whole world better than adventure, except maybe friends. friends, who claim he makes his Palmy clambers onto his shoulder so they can get a look at Liko. Unfortunately, one group who are most certainly not friends are the trio from the school, who have decided to pursue the brave Olivine on their Corviknight and Skarmory, even going so far as to brave the storm unprotected so they can attack the force-filled barrier around the battlefield, as it's their best chance of getting on board. Unfortunately, with all hands at their stations, there is no one to stop them, so that soon they have breached the perimeter and begin strolling towards the entrance of the interior. Due to the storm cutting the elevator's power, Ash and Liko are trapped in the entranceway, with the villainous leader clearly knowing this as he instructs Liko to come with them now, his placid tone belying unknown depths of menace. Fearing what this man might do to Ash or the Pokemon if she refuses, Liko prepares to agree, only for Ash to speak up first, as he tells this two-toned loser there's no chance he's letting a friend go with him or his bad guy buddies. He then looks to Palmy and asks if it's ready to battle for real, to which the mouse nods eagerly. While shrugging, the man brings back out his Ceruledge. Unfortunately for Ash, though he has his father's spirit, he is no Freed, and worse still, neither is his opponent, showing none of his father's patience as his Ceruledge cut down Palmy in a single slash during the moment of vulnerability caused by trying to stand. Then, if that weren't bad enough, he has Ceruledge stand over the defeated electric type, its burning blade just inches from Palmy's defenseless body, as he asks once more if Liko will come with them. Spotting the anguish on Ash's face as he cries out for his starter, and reflecting on how she's caused him nothing but trouble since they met, Liko solemnly agrees, just asking the trio to leave everyone else on board alone. Noting that this is reasonable, the man with the split hair bids Liko to follow him, though as he turns his back to begin descending the stairs to the battlefield, he feels something heavy strike him from behind. Tumbling down the stairs and onto the wet ground, the man is shocked to see that Ash has tackled him in some desperate attempt to save the girl, as he screeches like some feral primate for Liko to run and hide. Unfortunately, before she can do any such thing, the invader's two subordinates close in on either side of her, while grunting with disgust the leader throws Ash off him at last. However, it is at this moment that a new voice speaks up, that of Free to top his Charizard once again, as he grins that his son did a great job, but he can take it from here. And so begins the second battle between Freed and his new rival, a man he learns is named Amethio, and who represents a shady group known as the Explorers. Unfortunately for Amethio, this is not the breezy battle from canon, as while the professor would love to continue their little tete-a-tete feeling each other out, this guy hurt and threatened his kid, so he's gotta pay. Channeling the parental protectiveness he would normally not acquire until later in the timeline into his attacks, he has Cap do the honors this time with a ferocious Volt Tackle that shatters Ceruledge defenses and sends it crashing back into Amethio. Recognizing that he's beaten and that staying out here in the storm will gain them nothing, the villainous leader calls for a hasty retreat, with his timing being pretty on point as a moment later a burst of turbulence rocks the ship, with Liko and her Sprigatito suddenly going tumbling towards the edge of the deck and the open sky below. Frantically, Freed grabs Liko, stopping her fall, though when he tries to catch Sprigatito with his foot, the foliage feline slips out of his grasp and begins picking up speed. In a tone of terror, Liko cries out for her starter, though it seems it is doomed. That is until something passes her by. Ash, as he leans into the fall, using his greater weight to slide past Sprigatito and wrap it safely in his arm. However, this just means two people fall overboard, as before they can find purchase to slow down, both tumble from the deck and out of view, only to reappear a moment later as Ash lifts himself back up, having grabbed the edge of the battlefield with his free hand at the last second. As the brave Olivine rights itself, both Liko and Freed run up to the pair, with Sprigatito leaping joyfully into his trans arms, while Freed pulls his son into a tight hug, ordering him to never do anything that insane again. Laughing at this reaction and the residual adrenaline pumping through his body, Ash replies that he was just doing what he thought his dad would do in that situation, to which the white-haired man replies that he knows, and that's why he also knows it was insane. Thankfully, due to no one being lost, unlike in canon, the group are then able to head inside, and once the power's working again, take the lift below decks to rendezvous with the rest of the rising Volt Tacklers. Here Liko is at last introduced to Molly, Orla, Murdoch and Ludlow, and having established a bond of trust with Ash, she is quicker to accept these people as friends, with them in turn welcoming her to the brave Olivine. At Delia's insistence, the team will then sit down for a welcome feast of sorts, with all kinds of delicious food courtesy of her, while Murdoch whips up several of his signature desserts. As always, it is a great meal, and one tinged with laughter and stories, so that when Liko and Sprigatito curl up in bed that night, they feel full, both in terms of tummy and hope for what tomorrow might bring. And that's where we'll leave things. What adventures await the rising Volt Tacklers as they continue their journey? How will the presence of Ash affect them? And will they still meet up with key figures from their adventure like Roy? Find out as the journey continues.